Hello viewers, welcome to our lecture series on Indian ethos in management, and we are going to extend our discussion on the topic of decision making style and its practices. What are the practices into decision making and what is the style of decision making? So in the previous lecture of mine I told you about the four models of man, and we also had a brief discussion about the four types of processes where we talked about the simple and complex decisions along with the programmed and unprogrammed decision, that is structured and unstructured decision. So extending our discussion on the topic, I'll be now telling you about the matrix which indicates about the key aspects of four types of processes. And here we talked about the programmed decision, where in case of simple situations we found that the implementation is autocratic, but in case of complex decision we find that implementation is consultative. Another dimension was of unprogrammed one, and it indicates that in case of simple situation, goal consists simply of whatever looks good to the decision maker. Whatever is looking good to a decision maker, that becomes our goal. Whatever is that is called as low hanging fruits, if they are available and we find them to be something which can be attainable, which can be achievable. And while giving a smart goals, while drafting a smart goal, at times they talk about, they put emphasis on the attainment of that whether it is whether my goal is smart or not, whether it is specific or not, measurable, actionable, realistic at time and time bound. So while defining the SMART goals, when they say that it is specific, it is measurable, it is actionable or attainable, it is realistic and it is time bound. So while making it actionable, they find that these goals consist simply of whatever looks good to the decision maker. Their information search here is intuitive in nature. So while doing the information search, at times they make a good use of their intuitions, and implementation is it is both, that is autocratic or consultative depending on the situation. Whereas in case of complex one, where the complexity increases, there is continuous anticipation of problems, and information search is both elaborate as well as intuitive. So they go for making a combination of the two, that is on one hand they are doing elaborate information search, but on the other hand they don't leave the aspect of intuitiveness into their information search, and here the implementation is consultative for sure. So implementation is being done with the consultation of all stakeholders. So this matrix actually gives us an idea about the key aspects of four types of processes. And here comes the role of differential view. Driver in 1979 points out that these mentioned models are based on the generalist view, that is, you are going to generalize a situation which assumes that humans are basically alike, that one particular model of decision process offers a best fit for all people. So one size fit all approach cannot be applied to all situations where we have to make a decision. Whereas if we believe this very matrix, we find somehow that the traditional thinkers, they used to think that humans are basically alike. Two people are alike, or humans, they are generally they are alike, and this is why they could commit a mistake of understanding that one particular model of decision process offers a best fit for all people. It can be done, which is not true in the real world, in the real life. The author indicates that an alternative way to look at the nature of man will be to take a differential view. We need to find the differences, that yes, we understand that not two people are alike. So this is a view which assumes that humans differ in important ways, they differ significantly. So if we follow this path, then that is called as taking into consideration the differential view of the models of man. So no one model of decision making is going to suffice the purpose, or it is not going to fit even a large number of people. Forget about making it generalized for all decision making processes. So most of the researchers till now, they have accepted, they have validated that yes, one model, one size fit all approach cannot work into decision making process, because we are dealing with, it is being done by a human being, and not all humans are alike. They differ in important ways, they differ in significant ways. So there is a research which examined a variety of differential models under three major variations, namely the absolutist, that is absolute, taking the absolute, the person who is believing into the absolute decision making. The second one is adaptive, and third one is contingency viewpoints. So absolutist, adaptive and contingency viewpoints, these are the three important views. Now I will be telling you briefly about these three important views. If you talk about the first one, the person who is considering into the absolute view, or the person who is supporting absolute view, it holds that people differ, but there is one best type. So they are finding similarity, among this the differences. So out of all differences, what is the similarity, they try to identify, and in that way they are trying to find the best type out of that those differences. If we talk about the adaptive view, it assumes that people can change types to suit situations as needed. So according to circumstances, they can change types to which is convenient, which is having conformity to their situation in which they are going to take decision. And the contingent way says that, as it indicates, that whatever comes to you as an emergent situation, accordingly you take a decision. So it accepts that people differ and they are hard to change. It is very difficult to change the mindset of human mindset of a person, but each type works best in an appropriate environment. They feel that yes, environment do matters, or the situation, circumstances, they actually matters a lot. So the differential view is basically proposing here that we should accept first that yes, not two people are alike, human beings are not alike, there is a difference among the human being, and out of those differences somehow we should try to find some similarities. So humans differ in important ways, humans differ in significant ways. That is basically the origin point, that is the emanating point of this differential view. And I personally feel that yes, differential view is the more realistic one, because it says that we should accept whatever comes to us, whatever is coming to us as a situation, we should accept it. We should not try to create our own frame and then again forcing or posing others to fit into that frame. That would actually not create an environment which is based on harmony, which is based on happiness, which is based on well-being of organization. So the various differential models include those suggested by Blake and Mountain in 1964. There is a Reddin's 3D model. After that, there are so many models. I won't be naming those models which are given by Western thinkers, but the Keynes information processing model and several others, they are based on this contingency view. They feel that a manager is basically at the majority of situations, or in most of the situation, manager is struggling to deal with that contingency, to deal with that contingent situation, and they have to behave like an emergency of a hospital where they don't know in next 10 seconds what is going to happen. So likewise, they have to be prepared for facing any and every situation. This is what these contingency models, the thinkers of contingency model, they basically think like that only, that we should not try to find the similarity, we should be prepared to accept the differential view and we should try our level best to take best out of it. In what manner we can take best out of it, that is your management skill. So as a synthesis of these several models, Driver and Mock, they initially proposed a composite contingency model, and this is why I basically went through this study by Driver and Mock, because they actually synthesized all other researches, and then after that they came up with an idea of composite contingency model, which was further refined into environmental variables and optimal driver mock decision style model. So it was called as environmental variables and the optimal driver mock decision style model, wherein we are basically taking into consideration the environmental variables and trying to optimize the entire decision style, which is giving best results to the organization. So, the two dimensions which form the basis of these models are information use and focus of analysis, that whatever informations we have, in what manner we are going to use, make best use of that information, and what is the focus point of our analysis, whether we are focusing with this view that all humans are alike, or we are taking a differential view into consideration. So, focus of analysis and information usage, these are two important dimensions which form the basis of all these models which are into discussion. So, the first is classified in terms of maximizing versus satisfying, while the second is classified in terms of unifocus and multifocus, depending upon the focus of analysis, whether it is, if it is dealing with the one situation, it can be called as unifocus. If it is dealing with multiple areas, multiple facets of the decision making process, then of course it would be a multifocus one. So, Driver and Mock proposed 4 decision styles, which is named as decisive, flexible, hierarchic and integrative. They propose 4 decision styles: decisive, flexible, hierarchic and integrative. Now, I will be telling you what actually they are. If you look at decisive one, they say that managers using this style tend to use just enough data to reach a good decision. So, they try to find the sufficient data, sufficient information, and they try to reach to a good decision. They then hold on to that decision. Once they have taken a decision, once they have made a decision, then they stick to that. They hold on to that decision, and that is why we call it decisive. And at times we say that the person is very decisive in nature. So, these managers, they use this style to, and in that process they are using sufficient data to reach to a good decision, and once they have taken a good decision, they hold on to that specific decision. But if you look at the flexible one, these managers who are using this style, they tend to use just enough data. They are similar here with that of decisive, but they remain open to considering decisions as situation changes. Here they are similar to decisive one on this aspect, that they are also using sufficient data to take a decision, to make a decision, but they are not closed like decisive one, because the decisive one, once they have taken the decision, they would hold on to that decision, whereas flexible one is always open to reconsidering the new decisions, the new alternatives as situation changes. So, according to circumstances, they are flexible, they are open. So, this is another type of managers who are actually using this style, and they are called as flexible managers. The third one is hierarchic managers. Those who are using this style, they tend to use as much data as has value to reach one best solution. So, they try to reach to a best of solution to a specific problem, and this solution is elaborately planned and executed. So, they are basically using an elaborate way of taking a decision, and that is why we call them the hierarchic managers. Whereas the integrative one, these managers, those who are using this style, they tend to use as much data as is valuable, and simultaneously they develop multiple solutions also. That is why we call them the creative managers, because they are integrative in nature. They develop multiple solutions. So, if you, my dear learners, if you look at these 4 models, if you look at these 4 decision styles proposed by Driver and Mock, you would find the reflection of 4 models of man which I discussed in the previous lecture of mine. I told you about the 4 models of man, starting from the rational one, then irrational, administrative, and the last one was creative one or innovative one. So, it represents that those who are basically the rational one, they are decisive. Those who are administrative one, they may be flexible, hierarchic, and integrative one is the one who is coming out of the creativity. So, the manager who is very much creative in nature, they use this integrative style, and they try to use as much data as is valuable according to that specific situation, and simultaneously they develop multiple solutions. So, developing the multiple solutions to a specific problem indicates about their openness, that you would find combination of rationality, flexibility, hierarchy, and then creativity into one. So, if you ask me about the career advancement of a manager, I would say that it would start from the decisive one, then to flexible one, and eventually it will reach to hierarchic and integrative one. So becoming an integrative manager who is using integrative style of decision making, it indicates, it reflects that you are a manager who belongs to the creative model of man, and you represent that creative model of man, and accordingly this is being reflected into your decision making process. Here another name comes of Rowe integrated the various contingency approaches in his cognitive contingency model of decision styles. So, the name of Rowe also comes into the literature, and this model draws upon the concepts from the Jungian psychology as well as the recent researches related to information processing by the human brain, that the way our brain, the human brain processes a specific information which comes to them, because it is the human being who is going to make a decision. So, studies on human brain, they have indicated the differing usage of the two sides of the brain by different individuals. We always talk about the left hemisphere and right hemisphere and their dominance. So, the left side of brain is supposed to be more analytical, while the right is more intuitive. So, we have to find a balance between the analytical and the intuitive one, but according to the activeness of a specific side of the brain, you would find the reflection of either analytical or the intuitive side of their decision making process. So, in Rowe's model, 4 basic decision styles were identified on the basis of these 2 dimensions, namely cognitive complexity and personal values in terms of task or people orientation. Cognitive complexity was dichotomized in terms of high or low. High cognitive complexity, it indicates greater thinking orientation. If we look at high cognitive complexity, it is giving a reflection of greater thinking orientation, whereas low cognitive complexity, it indicates towards greater action orientation. So, thinking orientation and action orientation, these 2 different orientations, they come to the fore when we talk about the cognitive complexity and we talk about this greater action orientation. So, the author proposed 4 basic decision styles here, and they were labeled as directive, analytical, conceptual and behavioral. That one is directive, second one is analytical, third is conceptual, and fourth one is behavioral. So, these are the 4 decision styles which comes in front of us by another researcher. So, Rowe and Mason, they define the distinct characteristics of these basic styles called directive, analytical, conceptual and behavioral. And here if we look at the left brain orientation and right brain orientation, we find that when they are task oriented, when they are human oriented, and what is the extent of cognitive complexity. So, in case of left brain orientation, which is regarded as the task oriented, they are analytical and directive, whereas in case of right brain orientation, which is called as human oriented, they are more of conceptual and basically behavioral also. So, the left brain orientation and right brain orientation is going to decide the orientation of a manager making a decision. This is what the Rowe was willing to place in front of us when it comes to cognitive contingency models. So, task oriented or human oriented, whether the cognitive complexity is on the lower side or it is on the higher side, based on that this matrix can be understood, whether it is analytical, conceptual, directive or behavioral, whether it is high on analytical or low on directive, whether it is high on conceptual or low on behavioral. It depends on the orientation of brain, whether it is having left orientation or it is having right orientation. So, Rowe basically defined the distinct characteristics of these basic styles, starting with the directive one, for which Rowe actually says that the directive style is associated with low cognitive complexity and task orientation. It is having low cognitive complexity, but oriented to a task. This style is basically characterized by its practical orientation, and its emphasis is on here and now, that it is here and now you have to take a decision. So, it is talking about the task orientation, but the cognitive complexity is on the lower side, when we look at the directive one. So managers who are basically following the path of where you find the characteristics of directive one, you would find that they are low on cognitive complexity, but they are very much oriented to accomplishment of that specific task. People with this style, they have a tendency to use data which focuses on specific facts, and they prefer structure. They believe in working in a structure. They want a structured guideline for performing a duty. So they actually wait for directions to come. You would also find some of the managers, they always refer to the guidelines, they always refer to SOPs. They say that I need standard operating procedure. They don't apply their own wit or their own discretion into the decision making process. And the reason is very simple, they are very much task oriented, and the cognitive complexity, the level of cognitive complexity here is very low. That is why they look forward to their superiors for giving them directions. So they always follow the directives one, they always wait for the directions to come. Whereas if you, and they can be autocratic and they can exercise power and control also. Their focus is short range, and they tend to have the drive and energy needed to accomplish difficult tasks. They can accomplish the most difficult task even within the limited time frame, because they basically they are focused to the given directions and they follow those directions and accomplish the task. They display high control orientation and could use it for furthering their own self interest by exploiting others. So at times they give a plea, an excuse that since it is a directive, it is a direction from the higher ups, you have to simply abide by, we have to simply abide by that, and I am simply implementing that. That is why we call it the directive one. Second one is analytical one. This analytical style is associated with high cognitive complexity. Here the complexity, cognitive complexity is very high, but still they stick to task orientation. They do have that orientation towards task, but they are very much the level of cognitive complexity is very high here. This kind of style is characterized by the tendency to overanalyze, overthinking, or to always search for the best possible solution. So say they do follow those, they do read those directions, but they analyze. It is called adding meaning to the statement, to the guidelines, or drawing inferences out of what is written there. So this style is being characterized by the tendency of a manager to overanalyze, and they always search for the best possible solution. And though the managers who actually use this style, they tend to consider every aspect of a given problem. They always look at even the consequences which are far away from the reality. So they enjoy solving problems, searching for complete and accurate facts, and they carefully study the entire facts and figures, and then they take decision. So while they follow this process, this entire process, actually they are doing lot of analysis. They have that tendency of enjoying this situation of solving the problem, but it is backed by a lot of facts and figures, and they carefully study the facts and figures, and then they come up with a decision. So they are task oriented, we do not deny to that, but the level of cognitive complexity is very high. You would always find that the subordinates of such kind of managers, they are always busy in analyzing, they are always busy in finding the best possible solutions to a given situation. Moving ahead to the conceptual style, this is basically associated with the high cognitive complexity and people orientation. So here the cognitive complexity is very high, but the orientation is not towards task, the orientation is towards people who are actually for whom this particular style is being made. So this style is characterized by the creativity and people orientation, that you are looking for the best or for the betterment of the subordinates, for the betterment of people who are working in an organization. So conceptual executives are basically the perfectionists. They try to create a situation, they try to offer an organizational setup which is perfect, and they want to see many options, and they are concerned about the future. They believe that whatever we are doing today, we should not be busy in simply performing today's task only, in simply looking at the orientation, task orientation only. They look at people orientation, that today if I am performing this work, what would be the consequences, possible consequences of this particular action in near future. So they are very much concerned about the future, and that is why they are being called as perfectionists. They tend to be creative in finding answers to problems, and they at times they can visualize alternatives and consequences also. So they have this tendency to be creative in finding answers to problems and can visualize alternatives. Moving on to behavioral style. The behavioral style is associated with low cognitive complexity and people orientation. Here again the cognitive complexity is low, but orientation is not task, orientation is towards people, it is people orientation. This style is one which is most people oriented of all four. So out of all four styles, this is having inclination towards the people orientation. The managers with this kind of style, they are very supportive, they are receptive to the suggestions of their subordinates, they are open to the suggestions given by the subordinates, they show warmth, they use persuasion, and they accept lose control. They basically are receptive to suggestions which are coming to them. So they are likely to use the helping oriented management style more often, and these kind of managers with dominant directive and analytical styles, they tend to use the left side of the brain more often, as compared to the managers who are dominant on the conceptual and behavioral styles. So they are basically making good use of, or the significant use of the left side of the brain more often as compared to the managers who are dominant or on the conceptual and behavioral styles. Now here we gave you the two different ideas representing two different dimensions of analyzing the decision styles. Based on this, there is a 9-dimensional analysis which can be discussed here as a part of Indian ethos in management, where we talk about combining or synthesizing the Western ideas with that of the Eastern awakening. So it may be indicated that the essence of management lies in these interrelated processes. The first can be visioning and envisioning at the strategic level. Second one is decision making at the managerial level, and third one is basically it talks about different levels, problem solving at operational level, and fourth one is finding solution at all levels. So at different levels we are basically doing different kind of taking different kind of decisions. When we have to draft our vision, it is done at strategic level. When we have to make a decision at managerial level, we solve problems at operational level and find solution at all levels. So in all four situations we are basically making a decision. So this 9-dimensional analysis is another dimension of this very topic of decision making and decision style. I hope you must have enjoyed today's lecture of mine. Thank you so much.